I'm going to strike through this. I'm going to say that this was off. But, you know, just trying to look ahead. I'm going to leave it there so you can see it. So then when we graphed it, we get something that's behaving like this. We still have our asymptote here, like that. And then we have it behaving like this. Okay. Now, I just didn't kind of think too deep about that base being between 0 and 1, but that would explain why our anticipated graph is not matching this graph. But then let's kind of check it in a calculator, in a graphing calculator. I don't need to close all the tabs. I just want to open a new one. Yeah, that's the one I want. Okay, so now if I wanted to graph this in a graphing calculator to confirm my drawing, like in a TI-83 Plus, I'm going to go to y equals and clear. Now the original, I would say the log of negative x, close parentheses, divided by the log of 1 over 12. Now that's using the change of base formula. Okay, so now when I go to window, I want it to match my viewing window so I can get I can compare the graphs. So my x min, I can go to negative 20. My x max, I can go up to like 8, I guess. I'm going in steps of 4. My y minimum, I'm going to go down to negative 3. I want to go up to 3, and I want to go in steps of. I'm going to go in steps of 0.5. Sorry, 0.5. Okay, so or we can go in steps of 1, but either way, it'll be the same as what we have. Okay, so now when I hit graph, yep, and then you have the vertical asymptote, just like what we have. Well, it uses the y-axis as a vertical asymptote. So we've checked it, you know, in the graphing calculator. We did it by hand. We checked it in a graphing calculator. You know, we had a little premonition. We didn't factor in that base being between 0 and 1, so that's why our projected graph was off. Then I know there's a request for one other thing with this one, and that's how to graph it in Pearson. So I was using Pearson. Okay, I'll leave that there for now just so you can see how these questions evolve. So then now, if we're in Pearson, so this is where we got it from. Click to enlarge, use the graphing tool. So we want to try to graph this right here. So that's exponential, that's log. Now it should be a log function, right? We think we have, if we go back to our graph, we have when x is negative 1, y is 0. Okay, whatever. So let's take this. So all I did was just click somewhere. Now the base, here we got to type the base in. So the base needs to be 1 over 12. I'm going to hit enter. So, and then we need to reflect over the y-axis because of the negative x. I don't think we did a vertical shift. I think that's it, really. That looks like what we have. Okay, I think that's okay. I don't know if we need to put that asymptote. But this should looks good. So I'm gonna hit save, and I want to check my answer. Okay. So you saw how I did. Now this was the case, as I know when we're in class, you're like, hey, we should be able to type the points in. It depends. It's question specific. So this type of question, you got to click on, you know, the specific tool that you're using. Oh, let's identify the domain. Now, if this is our graph, this type of question, you got to click on the specific tool that you're using and then apply the transformation. Sometimes if you're, you know, so you just have to know what you're trying to graph and then kind of use the tools that are available. When you get on the exam, the way you saw me do it, matter of fact, can I go here? Yeah, the way you saw me do it here by hand, this is what I'm going to want you to do. But you've seen an example. Basically, when we get on the exam, I just print it off from here, and it'll look like this. And then sometimes it's multiple choice. Sometimes you got to do it manually. Okay, so you kind of got to be able to flow. Whenever in doubt, just ask me, and I'll kind of give you whatever kind of help I can. So now, if we have a graph like this, and the domain is the very left to the very right, the far left. Okay, so the domain, I'm going to do my open parentheses as soon as I can find it. There we go. We got parentheses. We're going to go from negative infinity. And then the far right, remember we have a vertical asymptote, so we're not going beyond that asymptote, so that's 0. It's up to 0. Okay? How do we get rid of that? Enter. I know that's right. Hold on, I got to get rid of that box. Backspace. Okay, negative infinity up to 0. The very left to the very right. And we use parentheses because we get really, really close to 0, but we never reach it. Okay? If you were to zoom in, I know it looks like you have to kind of conceptually get what asymptotes are. Because there's a vertical asymptote. What that means is if you were to zoom in, there's always going to be space. It looks like it's on top, but it's not. You have to know that for asymptotes, that means you get really, really close, but you're not actually on top of that line. So I'm going to hit enter. So again, that was wrong before because I had that extra space in there. So we cleaned up the domain. The range is the very bottom to the very top. So, for this type of function, it's going to be all rails. So I'm going to hit parentheses. I'm going to do negative infinity. Maybe I hit tab. Is there a tab? No? Anyway. Negative infinity up to infinity. Oh, I lost my parentheses. Oh, come on. All right. What we're going to do is backspace. No, what are you doing? What are you doing, my friend? Don't see how to put so I'm gonna just start over. Alright, that. Now we want to say negative infinity up to infinity. See, yeah, you're bizarre. Whatever. Okay, now it looks right. Okay, enter. Alright. Okay. So vertical asymptote of the graph is x equals 0. Check your answer. All right. Okay. So you got to see an example. You got to see this done by hand and, with the computer. Now, if I were to ask a question like this on the exam, you'll basically get what you see on the screen. But then what I'm really looking for is this kind of work by hand and then to answer the question. So I'm not only looking for these answers in this graph, but I'm also looking for this work that you saw me do in the black, blue, and green, and purple. Okay? So I'm looking for a combination of the two. All right, so with that, we will end the session here. And from one beautiful mind to another, enjoy the rest of your evening.